dark where secrets fall.
They say cheap rent always comes with a price. Ethan and Mark were about to learn that the hard way. Their new dorm room seemed like a steal, until the nightmare started, until the feeling of being watched became unbearable, until they discovered the horrifying truth behind the peeling paint and creaking floors. This is the story of the haunted dorm, and it will make you think twice about that too good to be true deal. Ethan and Mark were thrilled. They just landed in the bustling city, ready to start their college adventure. Finding an affordable place to live was their first big win, and they looked into a small room in an older, somewhat rundown complex of student apartments. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, and that's what mattered. The complex was a sprawling, two-story building with dozens of identical rooms, all facing a central courtyard. A heavy iron gate, the kind you see on old estates, guarded the entrance. Every time it opened or closed, it let out a long, drawn-out creak that could send shivers down your spine, even in broad daylight. "I call this side," Mark announced as soon as they stepped inside, gesturing towards the window. "I need the view, even if it's just the courtyard." He was the more outgoing of the two, always quick to take charge. Ethan, a bit more reserved and studious, shrugged. "Works for me. This place is surprisingly decent for the price. Just need some AC, and it'd be perfect." He started unpacking his carefully organized boxes. They settled in quickly, their belongings mostly consisting of clothes, books, and the essentials of dorm life. Exhausted from the long drive to the city, they decided to turn in early. Around 3 a.m., Ethan woke up sweating. The room felt stuffy, almost suffocating. He glanced over at Mark, who was tossing and turning, his sheets soaked. "Must be hotter than I thought," Ethan mumbled, getting up to crack open the window. He looked out into the courtyard. A single, flickering fluorescent light above the main gate cast long, dancing shadows. A stray dog, a skinny mutt, was standing in the middle of the courtyard, staring directly at their door and barking incessantly. Ethan squinted, trying to see what the dog was barking at, but there was nothing there. Shrugging, he went back to bed, figuring it was just a stray looking for scraps. Mark, despite the cool breeze now flowing into the room, continued to sweat profusely, his sleep troubled and restless. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling groggy, but Mark looked absolutely wrecked. "Dude, you okay?" Ethan asked. "You look like you ran a marathon in your sleep." "I had the worst nightmare," Mark groaned, rubbing his eyes. "Felt like something was pressing down on me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Classic sleep paralysis, I guess." Ethan, who had grown up in a family that held some traditional beliefs, suggested maybe we should do a little something, like a small offering. Just to, acknowledge the spirits of the place. It's an old building, who knows what's happened here. Mark scoffed. "Dude, seriously, you believe in that stuff? I'm telling you, it was just a bad dream. I'm not afraid of ghosts. I haven't done anything to deserve being haunted." Ethan just shrugged. "Suit yourself. But it can't hurt, right?" He was used to Mark's skepticism. They were polar opposites in many ways, but their friendship worked. They bickered good-naturedly, then made up and headed off to their first day of classes. That afternoon, Ethan came back to the apartment early while Mark decided to explore the neighborhood. Mark, with his outgoing personality, easily struck up conversations with people he met. He encountered a young girl, maybe 11 or 12, selling lottery tickets near the complex entrance. She looked thin and tired, wearing a faded baseball cap pulled low over her eyes. Feeling a pang of sympathy, Mark bought a few tickets from her. This became a routine. Mark would often stay out late, exploring the city, and almost every evening he'd see the lottery girl and buy a ticket. He never won anything, but he figured it was a small way to help. One evening, a few weeks into the semester, Ethan was studying at their small, shared desk when he smelled something burning. Smoke started to seep under the door. What the? He jumped up, thinking there was a fire. He rushed outside to find the landlady, Mrs. Henderson, a stern-looking woman with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, burning paper offerings in a small metal bin near the entrance to their room. "What are you doing?" Mark exclaimed, joining Ethan outside. "You're going to set the whole place on fire." Mrs. Henderson glared at them. "It's for protection," she muttered, avoiding eye contact. "Keeps the bad spirits away." Mark rolled his eyes, but Ethan was more thoughtful. Why would she need to burn offerings? What was she afraid of? The seed of unease, planted by Mark's nightmare, began to sprout. After the smoke cleared, Mark noticed a sharp pain in his left eye. "Probably just some ash from that crazy fire," he said, dismissing it. "Maybe," Ethan said, "but let me get you some eye drops just in case." Later that night, while Ethan was reviewing his notes, Mark tossed and turned restlessly. Ethan noticed that Mark's left eye was red and swollen. "Dude, that looks bad," Ethan said, concerned. "I'm going to the drugstore to get you some drops." It was close to 10 p.m., and the streets were mostly deserted. As Ethan crossed a busy road, a truck roared past, missing him by inches. Shaken, he continued on, his heart pounding. He saw the lottery girl standing on the corner, her face barely visible under her cap. "Lottery tickets, mister?" she asked softly. Ethan, preoccupied with Mark's eye and still rattled by the near accident, shook his head. "Sorry, kid, not tonight. I'm in a hurry." When he got back to the apartment, Mark had fallen into a fitful sleep. Ethan felt a twinge of annoyance. He'd gone out of his way to help, but he figured it was best to let his friend rest. He quietly placed the eye drops on the desk and went to bed. The moon was full that night, casting a bright, silvery light through the window. Even though the curtains were drawn, the room was bathed in an eerie glow. Suddenly, Ethan saw a shadow flicker across the wall. He felt a strange pressure, a feeling of being watched that kept him from falling asleep completely. He couldn't open his eyes, couldn't move. He heard Mark's voice, strangely distorted. "The lottery girl, she's at the gate. Let her in." Ethan struggled to open his eyes, to look towards the window, but he couldn't. He heard the stray dog barking again, its howls echoing in the courtyard. He knew somehow that Mark was having another nightmare, worse than the first. As the night wore on, a rhythmic thumping sound filled the room. Thump, thump, thump. Ethan finally managed to force his eyes open. He saw Mark kneeling on his bed, his forehead repeatedly hitting the thin mattress and the hard floor beneath. "Mark, what are you doing?" Ethan cried out, scrambling to his feet. Mark didn't respond. As Ethan reached out to touch him, Mark suddenly collapsed back onto the bed, falling into a deep sleep. The window, which had been slightly ajar, slammed shut with a loud bang. Ethan jumped, his heart racing. He looked outside, half expecting to see an intruder, but there was nothing there, only the empty courtyard and the flickering light. The next day, Mark woke up feeling terrible. His head throbbed, and his left eye was swollen almost shut. He decided to skip classes and stay in bed. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, beating down on Mark's bed, he decided to move his mattress to a cooler spot. As he lifted the mattress, he saw something underneath, a small, folded piece of paper covered in strange symbols. It looked like some kind of charm or amulet. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, picking it up. He examined it for a moment, then, deciding it was just superstitious nonsense, he tore it up and tossed it out the window. Later that evening, Mark's condition worsened. His eye was now completely swollen shut, throbbing with pain, and he had a high fever. Ethan, panicked, rushed him to the emergency room. The doctor diagnosed a severe eye infection, requiring immediate treatment and hospitalization. Mark, weak and disoriented, told Ethan to go back to the apartment and pack some things for him. That night, Ethan slept alone in the apartment. The room felt colder than usual, and the sense of dread hung in the air. He decided to do laundry, gathering both his and Mark's clothes. As he checked the pockets, he found a crumpled wad of lottery tickets in Mark's jeans. They were old, some dating back several years minus 2014 and 2015. "That's weird," Ethan thought. "Why would Mark have these?" He realized that Mark must have been scammed by the lottery girl. Annoyed, he ripped up the tickets and threw them in the trash. The silence of the night was broken by the sound of the stray dog barking. But this time, it wasn't at the gate. It was right outside their door. And with the barking, Ethan heard another sound. A faint, mournful cry. He tried to ignore it, to tell himself it was just the wind, but the crying grew louder, more distinct. And then a voice carried on the breeze whispered, Sir, please buy some lottery tickets." The voice was getting closer. Ethan recognized it. The lottery girl. "How did you get in here?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The girl didn't answer. She just kept repeating her plea, her voice thin and reedy. "Please, buy a ticket." Ethan felt a cold draft, as if a door had opened. He saw a hand reaching through the crack under the door. It was covered in blood. The fingers mangled and broken. Terror seized him. He knew with a chilling certainty that this was no ordinary girl. He tried to run, to scream, but he was frozen in place, paralyzed with fear. He fumbled for the wooden rosary beads his grandmother had given him, a gift from a trip to a famous cathedral. He clutched them tightly, holding them out towards the unseen presence. The hand recoiled, as if burned. The girl's voice, now a desperate wail, filled the room. "Sir, I don't want to sell tickets anymore. You promised. Don't make me leave. Can you see my eye?" Ethan woke up with a gasp, his body drenched in sweat, his hands still gripping the rosary beads. He was trembling, his mind reeling from the terrifying encounter. He spent the rest of the day in a daze, staring out the window, replaying the nightmare over and over in his head. Mark called from the hospital. "Ethan, pack my stuff. I'm checking out. I can't stay here. I can't sleep." Ethan, still shaken, didn't know what to say. He knew somehow that Mark's problems were connected to the terrifying events of the night. Suddenly, Mrs. Henderson, the landlady, appeared at their door, arguing with some other students. The noise drew Ethan out of his daze. Finally, the other students left, and Mrs. Henderson stormed into Ethan and Mark's room. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her eyes darting around the room. "What did you do?" "The charm. It was under the mattress." "How did you know?" "It was Mark's bed. He knew, not me." "Why is he in the hospital?" "His eye infected. Tell him to come back. I need to talk to him." Ethan, overwhelmed, blurted out everything he had experienced: the lottery girl, the bloody hand, the chilling voice. Mrs. Henderson listened, her face growing pale. When Ethan finished, she collapsed onto a chair, sobbing. "5 years ago," she began, her voice trembling, "a young girl lived in this very room. She was an orphan, maybe 16 years old. She worked hard to survive, cleaning, doing laundry for neighbors, selling lottery tickets in the evenings. I found someone who would pay more rent for this room," Mrs. Henderson continued, her voice choked with guilt. "I told her she had to leave. She begged me to let her stay until the end of the month, just enough time to find another place, but I refused. I told her she had to leave that night. She wouldn't go, so I called 2 men, strong men, to force her out. They threw her belongings into the street, grabbed her. She fought back, but they were too strong. They dragged her out of the complex into the night. As she was gathering her things, a truck, it came speeding down the street. It hit her. The wheels, they crushed her. Her face, her left eye." Mrs. Henderson couldn't continue, overcome with sobs. "The stray dog," she finally managed to say, "it was barking like crazy. It ran out into the street. It grabbed something and ran back into the complex, leaving a trail of blood. I followed the trail, and I found the dog gnawing on her left eye. After the accident, people started seeing her at night, selling lottery tickets at the gate. If you were sensitive, you could see her. She would ask, 'Have you seen my eye?' The 2 men who threw her out, one of them, he delivered furniture. He used ropes with metal hooks. One day, a hook snapped. It flew into his eye. He lost his sight. The other man, he had a stroke. He was paralyzed on one side. His left eye, it wouldn't close. It got infected. He went blind too. People said it was her taking revenge. They started leaving offerings at the spot where she died on the 2nd and 16th of every month. I was terrified. I thought she would come for me. I got charms, lots of them, to protect myself. The charm under the mattress, it worked for a while. But her spirit, it got stronger. It started to wander through the complex, knocking on doors, searching for her lost eye. No one wanted to live here anymore. I was desperate, so I used a stronger charm, a dark charm right here in this room. It kept her out of the complex, but she still wandered the streets, selling her tickets, asking about her eye and anyone who rented this room. They got sick or hurt or lost the sight in their left eye. And now it's Mark. Mrs. Henderson broke down again, weeping uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't know what else to do. But using that dark charm, it made things worse. She's trapped here. Because she's an orphan. No one performed the proper rites to help her move on. Ethan, realizing the truth, said she doesn't know she's dead. That's why she keeps coming back, selling tickets, searching for what she lost." A month later, Ethan and Mark had moved out of the haunted apartment complex. Mark's eye, thankfully, had healed, although he would always have a small scar. Mrs. Henderson, burdened by guilt, finally arranged for a proper memorial service for the young girl, hoping to appease her spirit and allow her to find peace. Whether she herself would find peace remained to be seen. Her actions had consequences, and the weight of her guilt was a heavy burden to bear. Mark, still skeptical, questioned Ethan. "Why did I see her and you didn't? Why did I have to suffer all that?" Ethan explained that it was likely due to the protective charm his grandmother had given him. It shielded him from negative energy. The night he saw the girl's hand, he had forgotten to wear the charm. And, he added, the moment Mark tore up the charm under the mattress, he had opened the door for the girl's spirit to enter the room, drawn to the place where she had suffered so much, seeking to connect with the living and find her missing eye. And that was the story of the haunted dorm, a place where a tragic past refused to stay buried. Did the young girl's spirit ever find peace? Could Mrs. Henderson ever atone for her guilt? And will Ethan and Mark ever truly forget what they experienced? Remember, sometimes the best deals come with the highest price. Don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Horror Tales for more chilling stories. Share your thoughts on this tale in the comments below. Have you ever encountered anything strange where you live? Tell us about it. Sleep well if you can.
Is it the wind or a ghost?